Palmetto Bay is experiencing a steady market. Although we've had a little bit of a cool down, they're still very strong in appreciation.
That's so much faster than you'll see in those other markets. So it's by no means a slow market.
It's a very strong market. Palmetto Bay is extremely strong, still performing. Even during the cool down, you're seeing a lot of movement.
If you want a new home in the Gables, you're going to be paying about $1,200 a square foot. If you want a new home in the Grove, slightly north of that, it's $1,400 a square foot. Compared to Palmetto Bay, it's just simply impossible to build a new home at those kind of numbers because of land. Welcome to the mid-year report for Palmetto Bay. My name is David Siddons. I'm here with Alexis Castelo, who is our territory manager for the market. This is a report to explain what's been going on in Palmetto Bay over the last 6 months. Okay, just before we get into the numbers and the areas, let's just get into the geography, because I know a lot of people watching this. There's going to be two people, buyers and sellers. And we'll get into the sellers after we get into the buyers. But for the buyers who are coming into Miami and they're trying to figure out where to buy, let's just help them understand the geography. Palmetto Bay, geographically, where does it sit?
It sits right between 184th all the way up east of US 1 to 136.
Okay.
Right at the border of Pinecrest.
And then above 136th, you're into Pinecrest. And it sits east of US 1.
East of US 1, and it stretches back all the way to Cutler, near the Deering Estates.
How has the Palmetto Bay market been performing over the last 6 months?
Well, Palmetto Bay is experiencing a steady market. Although we've had a little bit of a cool down, they're still very strong in appreciation. I think that the strong suit is our 1 to 2 million range, which is trading extremely fast.
Okay.
When you compare it to other markets, I mean, we're experiencing, houses selling right at ask price in about 45 days.
Yeah.
Which is pretty much unheard of.
Very fast compared to other neighborhoods. In terms of dollar per square foot, again, people ask me, is the market going up or is it going down? And we usually compare that to how would the same house last year perform if I was to sell it this year? Is it reaching the same price and the same dollar per square foot? Is it going up or is it going down?
So as at the moment, what we're experiencing, it's remaining steady. What we're noticing in the last 6 months, is a mid-year report, is that whenever they're going at the ask price, we're seeing about a 5.7 decrease under contract. So to answer your question, is right now we have inventory of 8 months. And in the 8 months last year, it was actually a little bit shorter. So we've increased a little bit more inventory. Prices have remained steady. We're just getting a little bit of reduction on...
More reduction. So we're getting about 93% of asking price average across a lot of those listings. Or I know there's some that are selling much faster than that. But compared to last year, that's a little bit slower. The days on the market's just a little bit longer.
Buyers seem to be a little bit more hesitant today versus last year.
But I mean, I got to tell you, compared to other markets, it's still so fast. I mean, selling Palmetto Bay homes, I look at it and wow, if these numbers, and again, I spend a lot of time analyzing the Pinecrest market and the Coral Gables market, that's so much faster than you'll see in those other markets. So it's by no means a slow market. And you said it's about 8 months of inventory right now?
Yes, it's 8 months inventory. Right now, we're experiencing what they call as a balanced market.
Yeah.
What I like to see is that there's enough demand for enough buyers. And I like to say that, again, it's a very strong market. Palmetto Bay is extremely strong, still performing. Even during the cool down, you're seeing a lot of movement in that 1 to 2 million range.
What are the different price bands here? Because it is quite different.
Yeah. So Palmetto Bay has a lot of options on the up to 1 million range. So there's actually a product and availability under $1 million.
Okay.
Which is pretty huge.
You wouldn't get that. You will not get a single home in Pinecrest or, well, really Coral Gables or Coconut Grove under $1 million. Not even land these days because it's much more expensive. So up to 1, and then what are the other price bands?
So after up to 1, then we have 1 to 2, which is our highest trading product.
Yep.
And then we have 3 million to 3 million.
We have 2 to 3 because we missed that. So
up to 1 million.
Yeah.
Up to 1 million, 1 to 2.
Yes.
And then 2 plus.
2 plus. But there's a big band between 2 and 3, but then over 3. And in terms of percentages of the market as a whole, what is the percentage of homes that you find under $1 million, and then what's the percentage between 1 and 2, and then 2 to 3, and etc.?
So up to $1 million represents about 35%.
Okay.
Of the homes that were sold.
Okay. So 35% of the market of homes available and homes sold is under $1 million.
100 million. Represents a third.
Okay.
So we have our highest trading product, which is 1 to 2 million, and we have a total of 57%.
Okay.
Homes that were sold in that price point.
Right. And then above that, the 2 to 3 and above that is only like 7% of the market. It's a very small bandwidth. Most markets don't even kick in till $3 million. I mean, I don't have that many conversations with buyers in other neighborhoods. So I know that there are buyers out there. And again, given the fact that this is east of US 1, and as people start moving south from Brickell and they go into Coconut Grove, Coral Gables, and then they get into Pinecrest and then beyond. All right, so now we've got those different price points. We've discussed those bandwidths, which are obviously much lower. Going into it, we were diving into like the number of homes that are currently on the market. Has inventory grown much in Palmetto Bay? Has optionality increased much in the last 6 months?
So we are experiencing some builders coming into the area as far as, properties are selling or trading or trying to trade above the $600 per square foot range.
Right.
Which, by the way, those are the ones that are kind of sitting there and lingering within the market. We do have an influx of properties between that 1 to 2 million range, which, when you look at products that have been fully finished versus product that's original, we have a good amount of a mix there.
Yeah.
I noticed that the ones that are selling, the ones that are performing, are the ones that are beautifully renovated.
Yeah, as you would expect. So dollar per square foot, to put this into like a quick plug and play, and people will always be thinking, what's my home worth? Buyers out there are equally going to be thinking, what is it worth? What should I be paying? What can I get? I know dollar per square foot is a little bit sometimes abstract, and it's like, what does that really mean? If we look at the top end of the market, what does the top end of the market dollar per square foot look like? What's the main band of dollar per square foot of most of the homes, and what's the entry dollar per square foot of the market?
So the most expensive home actually sold for about $5,086,000. It's sitting on the water. It came out to a staggering $866 a square.
Right.
So that's the exception. And just to show you what the variety of type of product that's in Palmetto Bay, we have properties that sit on the water that are selling at a premium. And then you got the houses in the inlet, and as far as Palmetto Bay goes, at the $450 to $500. Now, the sweet spot is about the $600 a square foot, which is the properties are between the 1 to 2 million.
The conversation I get a lot with people coming in, and we always gravitate sometimes towards, what does a new house cost? Because I know what it is in the Grove and the Gables and Pinecrest, and we can talk about that. But what do you pay? What are the historical dollar per square foot that we see for newer homes? When I say newer, I'm going to take in the last 10 years. Doesn't have to be brand new, but what do you pay? What's a brand new house, and what's something in the last 10 years? What's it reaching dollar per square foot?
It's reaching just about 600.
Just 600.
New construction.
Right. Let me put this into perspective for you. If you're looking into a home, and a lot of people call us up and say, where can I get a good family home? If you want a new home in the Gables, you're going to be paying about $1,200 a square foot.
That's amazing.
If you want a new home in the Grove, slightly north of that, and it's really well done, you're going to be paying $1,400 a square foot, $1,300 to $1,400 a square foot. If you go into Pinecrest, you're going to be paying somewhere around $1,150, and the best dollar per square foot home sold for $1,300. Doesn't really matter too much, because now you're at a point where you will pay double, 200% for a newer home in Pinecrest or Grove or Gables compared to Palmetto Bay. It's just simply impossible to build a new home at those kind of numbers because of land. Land in these markets is somewhere between $160 and $200 a square foot. So these houses that we're seeing down in Palmetto Bay paint us a picture of some of the houses that you've seen that you thought, here's a really good working example. How much land, again, this is for buyers, and then we'll get into the sellers in a minute, but how much land can you get? Like, what's a typical lot size?
Typical lot size, it's ranging between 15,000 up to 30,000 square feet. So these are oversized lots. In some cases, I've seen some really nice houses sitting on 40,000, right just shy of an acre.
Wow.
Yeah. So
that's a good
size.
Piece of land.
Yeah.
What are the schools around Palmetto Bay? Like just within let's say, less than a 10, 15-minute drive.
So that's actually very unique. Right now, Palmetto Bay is actually the home of the top 2 Christian schools.
Okay.
They have great programs. So one to mention, Palm Trinity.
Yep.
You have also Westminster.
Yes.
Not to mention you have the great public schools. So Palmetto High, Palmetto Elementary, very great curriculum.
Palmetto High is where Jeff Bezos went, and again, that's had a lot of I guess, love over the last few years, because obviously everyone's now realized where Jeff Bezos is from. But it's wild to think that there's a garage somewhere in Palmetto Bay that Jeff Bezos started Amazon. It just blows my mind. But it is interesting to see, because I mean, again, it's the only neighborhood I know that you can get into a home like what you're talking about. You simply cannot get a home in Palmetto Bay. You couldn't get one in Pinecrest like Palmetto Bay. It's in the price point's impossible. When you go west of US 1, it's really different. Why is it such a cutoff between east and west of US 1? There's this line that people won't cross over.
Yeah, so you start to see, if you cross over to the west side, the lots become smaller. The construction style is very different. The layouts, bedroom, bathroom counts start to change. And you've also, when you're crossing at the other side of US 1, you're also noticing that there's not so much available as far as activity, lifestyle. So the closer out to the water is what I'm finding, which is the east of US 1, Palmetto Bay, has a lot of access to marinas, boating. There's a lot more to do. And based on that and the lot sizes, I think the prices start to change.
And then in terms of where you shop, where you go to the gym, what you do, very, very, very quickly, what are the key landmarks in Palmetto Bay?
So you've got the plaza where the fall sits. You've got right in the same plaza, you've got Whole Foods, you've got Lifetime Gym. There's a variety of different restaurants where you can really enjoy family.
And it's not just Lifetime isn't just a gym there. It's like a city. I mean, it's like a 3-store. I go there. Yeah. I live all the way up in Ponce Davis, which is $1 per square foot in that neighborhood for a top-level home, $2,000 a square foot. Cheapest home that I see in Ponce Davis, about $7 million, up to 20. But I use that gym. I use that Lifetime down there because it is just, there's an inside pool, there's an outside pool, there's cold plunge, there's saunas, there's pickleball courts, there's a huge gym, which is, 50,000 square feet. There's a restaurant. There's just tons of stuff.
So much to do in there. I love it. I personally go there myself, and I find myself going there even just to have a good meal. They have a lot of good
there's a lot of nice little restaurants around there too. So there's some life down there. There's quite a lot of parks as well in Palmetto Bay. It's worth exploring if you're trying to come down here and you're looking at Pinecrest and Coral Gables and Coconut Grove, and you're kind of getting disheartened because you're like, I can't afford this. This is your guy. This is the one you speak to. So Alexis Castelo, our territory manager. We only have one territory manager per area. These are the experts who really know and sell and live, eat, sleep, and breathe their neighborhood. And I was going to say, how does it compare to Pinecrest, Cutler Bay, Coral Gables? But it's clearly much, much better value for money. We started to talk into a little bit about selling below asking price. And what I found interesting was when we started to have this dialogue, and it kind of blew my mind as well. We were looking at the number of homes that were selling around asking and how fast they were selling. So, I think out of the 39 sales that I saw in the last 6 months, I saw 19 of them in the 1 to 2 million range. Interesting enough, the 1 to 2 million range, those 39 sales, and half of those sold in less than 45 days. Like they actually went active and closed, not like pending, but closed. Cumulative days on the market was 45 days, which is really fast. And the sale price to asking price, there was a few that sold over asking price, which is like in this mind, it's different to, let's say, any other neighborhood. I would never see that in any other neighborhood. And then there was a number of them that was sold at asking price. And a few that were selling obviously like $50,000 to $75,000, $100,000 under asking price, which is less than 5% for that band. But there are types of homes that you need to be a bit careful about. Tell me about that.
Yeah, so what I find is that there's some product that's sitting there that's aggressively priced without the renovation. So when you look at properties that are selling at the ask or even above ask, these are properties that are really either well-maintained, recently renovated, but there are homes out there that, need a level of finish that is not quite there. So those properties are the ones that are right now experiencing a little bit of a slowdown and increased days on market. And when you look at some of the...
And then there's some on the other end of the market, going to the completely other end of the spectrum, where we looked at expired listings, stuff that didn't sell. And it was new and really high priced.
Yeah, so we did notice there's some new construction, new developers putting out product at the square footage of your neighbor in Pinecrest. So what I find is that I think they went a little bit too early into the market, thinking that maybe that they can sell properties in that $1,000 per square foot
Yeah.
range. And so that product seems to be a little bit stagnant
Yeah.
just because of the limited inventory. There's not a lot of options. And then for that price point, you've got Pinecrest right next door.
What we want to understand is, why is that turnover much, much slower in Palmetto Bay, and in Coral Gables and Coconut Grove, we have much speedier turnover of property. People hold properties for a much shorter period of time. Why do we see that?
So it goes to show you how unique that market is because of the location of it. You know, when you go into the higher price points, Pinecrest, for example, it's a very high jump, right? The availability of homes for the price that's available, it's extremely high. So you got someone who may have a bunch of equity in a house that's between $1 to $2 million, to be able to quantify that jump into a $3 to $5 million option in Pinecrest. It's extremely.
So if somebody wants to improve and move up to the next neighborhood on the food chain, the next pecking order up, that next neighborhood is into Pinecrest. And it might be into Coral Gables and Coconut Grove if you could afford it, because at that stage maybe your kids are graduating and you don't want to stay in the house anymore. Or your kids are going into middle and high school and maybe you don't want the house after they graduate and leave school. The challenge is the jump to go from Palmetto Bay into Pinecrest is not 20 or 30% more expensive.
It's more of like 100% more expensive.
It's 100% more expensive. And so when we look at the demographic profile, and again, this is the economist talking right now, socioeconomically, it's got a lot of white collar, upper middle class families who, I say working wealthy, they are working, they're saving money. But in order for them to jump up, they are going to have to spend not 30% more, but 100% more to get the same type of house slightly more north.
Correct.
And therefore it doesn't make sense. You might as well just stay put until you really want to move out of the area completely. So when people do move, what are you seeing? How old are they and where are they moving then to? Where are they going?
So a lot of these homes, and part of the reason why they're also, 10, 15-year turnaround times, a lot of these homes are basically being inherited by their heirs. A lot of the actual community stays in Palmetto Bay. The kids want to end up staying there. They want to inherit the house. And, naturally those folks are a little bit elderly, which is why we see a lot of original product and haven't been renovated in the last 5 years. So typically those older generation are moving and downsizing, and then we have their own family moving into.
So you have a high yield of an older demographic who are owners who are, 55 to 70, for example, as opposed to in Pinecrest and Coral Gables and Coconut Grove, where you'll have a much higher ratio of people exiting out maybe mid-50s who their kids have graduated and now they have the liquidity maybe to then move into something else, but they might move into a condo, because condos aren't cheap either. Once you move out of a house and go into a condo and you go into somewhere like Coconut Grove, heaven forbid you want to try to move into Coconut Grove in a 3 to 4 bedroom condo in a nice building. Guess what you're going to spend that? Well, I'll tell you, it's going to be about $6 million.
Wow.
It's just, it is what it is. It is what it is. So maybe they might go, into other areas like Brickell. Or completely more likely out of the area, completely and totally out of the Miami area. So now we've got into this and we've obviously covered a bit of the inventory. Let's get into the conversation for sellers. And I think one of the most valuable group that will benefit from this conversation are those people who currently own in Palmetto Bay and they're figuring out what they should do and they're trying to understand, what's my house worth? What should I do here? So is it a good time? Again, is it a good time to sell or hold in Palmetto Bay? What does the horizon look like? And maybe one of the big questions that we also have is interest rates. Interest rates haven't dropped yet. They may drop, and we expect them to because they've been stale for a while now. What do we think if someone says to us, I'm thinking about selling my home? Who should and who shouldn't sell?
So that's a very good question. So when I look at who should sell, right, and you look at product that is turnkey, it's a great option, right? If you have the resources to renovate a home before your son, you're prepared to do that, then I think today's market is a very good time to do that, where you're able to get the return on investment.
Yeah.
So when I look at product that is not renovated, and let's say, necessarily they're not in the right timing of investing that type of money or time into making the house a little bit more beautiful, I would definitely hold, just wait. The appreciation is still there, so I would just hold tight until things quiet down. But again, if the wherewithal is there and they can renovate, and if the product is turnkey, I would definitely recommend in today's market to capitalize off.
There is also sometimes a counter to that, which I've seen, where sometimes houses become too expensive for that homeowner to maintain. And as it gets older and older and older, their bills start to go up and up and up. And it becomes less comfortable for them because the AC is breaking, the roof's got leaks, there's other issues going on. And then you get to that point where you're just going to end up with a house that's getting closer and closer to land value. And it's harder for builders to start to get in and build those and redo them because the ceiling of the market's very low. There's not a very high ceiling. Again, like we talked about, $3 million might represent in many cases the top of their market. There's a few exceptions to the rule, of course.
Right.
But there's a certain point where if you know that in 5 years, 3 years from now, your house is just going to look more and more worn out, it may be you're having challenges with your insurance. There may be some other things going on. For those people who do have nice homes, again, we always say sometimes it's a moment where in your life you just don't need the house.
Right.
The kids have graduated from school. You might have a bigger home. I know there's a lot of houses that are around, 2,000 square feet, 1,800 square feet, but there's a few houses that are 3,500 square feet, 4,000 square feet.
Yeah, no, the majority of the homes are, larger homes. The 1 to 2 million range, for example, the sweet spot there is between 1,900 to 2,500 square feet.
Well, let's take a look at that, because again, if I just was to analyze, and again, doing this as a live exercise for those sellers out there, when we start to look at the number of houses that in square footage, again, I'm just going in that 1 to 2 range just because it's just easy for this conversation.
Right.
It's the meat and potatoes. Out of those 39 properties, if I look at this, I can clearly see there are 12 properties, which is nearly 1/3. Actually, the one was one at 2,993 square feet. So it's really, really close. So like 1/3 of the properties that are priced between $1 to $2 million are over 3,000 square feet. So and this is living. This isn't adjusted. This is living square footage, and they're all 4 bedrooms. I mean, there's just so many 4 bedrooms in that price point, and I think there are some homeowners who may say, you know what, it's just me and my wife now. We have 4 bedrooms and we use 1,
Right.
and the kids they're not coming back. They're off traveling. They're in college. They're much further away. It's just me and her, and it's just a lot of work to maintain this house.
It's a lot of lawn care, a lot of maintenance in the property. So yeah, at this point, I think that it is a smart decision to be able to get into that conversation to see if this is something that maybe it's worth considering.
Yeah.
So I think we're at a time where, again, back to the demographic, where the big transfer of wealth is happening.
Mm-hmm.
And because of that transfer of wealth, it's a great time to capitalize off of the strong market. Like I was saying before, we have 8 months of inventory. In that price point that we're mentioning, just for the sake of conversation, 1 to 2 million, it's trading extremely fast and pretty strong.
I would like to have a bit of a finished dialogue with a group that they're not usually spoken to so directly as sellers, because they're usually associated with, they know what's going on and they're dealing with it and they're on the ground and they're very savvy. It's builders, the guys who are building houses. What I noticed in Palmetto Bay is we don't have any big agents who are really down there selling. I mean, we're the David Siddons Group. Our production in a year, right now this year, I mean, it's going to, I think we're halfway through the year and we're already at $240 million of transactions. $240 million of products sold in the first 6 months of this year.
So I'd like to ask,
there's no other teams that are in that market that are doing anything like that. So we do have this on the ground experience, and we obviously have a big marketing engine behind us as well.
So what makes the David Siddons Group that much stronger? What's the process like? Can you just walk us through that?
So for a seller at that level, let's say a builder, one of the things that we have is we have just an enormous database. Our database is 771,000 people. So we really do have a very strong group. Plus, we also have what we call a large amount of migratory buyers who are non-discriminatory. They don't know where they want to be. They're open. They're really open. They're like, call me up, and I get it every day. Dave, where should I live? I'm like, well, how much you got to spend? What's important to you? And I think a lot of the local selling is done locally. It's not done from people coming from out of town. And I think one of the opportunity areas is Palmetto Bay, and we can certainly, really push that out there, especially when you're getting into the newer product, because there are people who want new, but they can't get it. With that said, what I'm finding is that the sellers also at the newer product, they're not being guided. I honestly don't feel they're being guided properly in terms of they're coming out with $1 per square foot, which is just it's not quantifiable in any way. And I think the message that they're not getting, which I feel is really important, is to say to them, buyers are out there, they're willing to pay, but they will not break records. They will not break the record $1 per square foot. I've said it about Coconut Grove, Coral Gables, and Pinecrest. And I think it's so important to have the strength of conviction to tell them what they need to hear, not to give them a hug and make them feel all warm and fuzzy. That's the sign of someone who's just desperate for a listing, who just says, let me list your overpriced house and I'll have a great listing, and then maybe I'll get some free exposure and I'll take it because I've got nothing else going on. We only sell product that we can sell. We only want to take listings that we can sell. We'll break records. We'll do incredible things. We have the marketing machine. We have the artillery. We also know the other markets. So it's not selling in a vacuum. But I think being willing to have the tough conversation, because we don't need to sell. We have the business.
Definitely. And what you said is spot on. I mean, the market speaks to us. We can clearly see it within the numbers. I mean, the properties that are trying to break records are just, some cases over a year on the market.
It's undeniable. It's the ugly truth of the market. What's the hidden value of Palmetto Bay? Where do I find that for a long-term investment? If I want to deploy some capital and I'm going to buy something, what's the long-term play where you say, you know what, this could be a really good play? If you don't have, $5-10 million to buy something, you've only got a few. Is it a buy-in? Is it a flip? Is it a buy-in? Is it a hold? Is it a buy and build? Is it a renovate and sell? What do you think?
So I'm in the thought of, Palmetto Bay long, meaning long-term, is always going to be a strong investment. Just there's so much more opportunity there. I don't think it's reached its full capacity. So when you look at lot sizes, when you look at the proximity to all the nearing neighborhoods like Coral Gables, Pinecrest, I think it's a strong opportunity long-term where the builders will eventually start to build product that makes sense and where the market will respond to it. I just think in today's market, it's not necessarily something we'll sell that quick. But as you look at the next 10 years, I strongly believe Palmetto Bay will be that untapped market that will gain that more
traction. And I always say land is the one thing they're not building any more of. So where possible, I say it to a client today, if you can get a bigger lot, get a bigger lot. It is still, there's not an infinite supply of land in any neighborhood. So I always say get that slightly bigger lot and buy those cul-de-sacs. Those cul-de-sacs, I mean, we dig those out. That dead-end cul-de-sac street where your kids can learn to ride their bike quietly, that has, a nice aspect to it. Those are the ones that we chase down. My final question was, where do you see Palmetto Bay going in long term? But let's think shorter than that. How do you see it over the next 6 months? What do you think we're going to see as we run through the rest of 2025?
So over the next 6 months, I think the market is going to remain steady. What I do believe is that investors will start to look there, meaning there are going to be a lot more transactions off market to be able to buy land, develop at the right price point, just because it's going to be hard to ignore the fast turnaround of 45 days. And as, end of year comes around and builders are looking somewhere to invest and put their money and grow their wealth, that's going to be a very interesting market.
Yeah. Alexis, thank you for doing this. I hope that if you watch this, you learned a lot about Palmetto Bay, maybe for the first time. Our territory managers, as they grow and we move into different areas, we're becoming more and more proficient, and we're able to do what other people cannot do. Like I said, this may be the only Palmetto Bay full comprehensive report out there in the market. Most importantly, see our information below. pick up the phone, give us a call, shoot me an email. If this is interesting to you, we'd love to chat with you. And if you have questions, DM us and we'll answer those too. Alexis, thank you so much. And I look forward to seeing a lot of transactions through Palmetto Bay over the next 6 months.
Absolutely. Look forward to it.
Beautiful. Thanks for watching.